Hello, namaskar, good evening. I am Ajit Kumar Jha, the editor of the Public Global and the CEO of Power Pixar. And today's program, we want to devote to the Almighty Election Commission of India, which takes arbitrary decisions. On June 25th, the Election Commission of India, which is, remember, a constitutional body, right? And we actually respect it. But they have taken an unprecedented decision and on June 25th. And what is the decision? The EC has claimed that it has initiated revision of electoral rolls in Bihar. Now, remember, Bihar is up for polls in October, November. So this is probably 3 or 4 months before the election that the EC wants to do what they are calling a special intensive revision of the electoral rolls. Why? We are all sort of puzzled. Everyone, all political parties. In fact, the EC had called a meeting recently of all political parties, and the EC had claimed that they have something like 4,000 meeting with in different points of time with political parties, where they discussed an 18-point sort of agenda. But during those meetings, the EC did not even mention about this special revision of the electoral rolls. Why? We don't know. In January, February, they were doing the customary revision of summary revision of the electoral rolls. January, February of this year. They could have mentioned it then, but they did not. They all were quiet, and suddenly on June 25th, in an unprecedented step, they have begun this, what the EC calls special intensive revision of polls. Now, the question is, some people will say, well, the EC always ends up revising electoral rolls, deleting people who are dead, who are no more there. So this is done, the usual thing. And by the way, this, the EC says, is a house-to-house call, where block-level officers will go house to house in the entire of Bihar. Remember, Bihar has close to 13 to 14 crore population, out of which there are 8 crore voters. And this entire exercise, the EC wants to do in 1 month. The exact time in which they will do is 1 month, and then they will basically do the revisions. Now, this raises a lot of questions. Let me first raise what are the questions that are being raised by citizens, several leaders of political parties, and the questions they are raising is this the introduction of the National Register of Citizens, NRC, through the back door? This is what Mamata Banerjee's response is, because right after Bengal polls in the north, there will be polls in West Bengal. In the south, there will be polls in Kerala, Tamil Nadu. And the EC has claimed that Bihar is going to be the first state. And then subsequently, all the states, they will do this, what they call the special intensive revision of polls. Now, this is really something that is raising all kinds of suspicions on what the EC is trying to do. As I will explain the EC's various steps, you will be befuddled. You will wonder why the EC is doing it. So now, they have taken the cutoff date of 2003. Now, 2003 is what? 22 years from now. They are saying that those who are registered voters since 2003 do not have to provide any kind of documentation to establish their citizenship. But those who are registered voters before 2003, they have to come up with documentation. Now, remember, let me tell you a little bit of history here. In the US, voters are supposed to register themselves. So voters have to go and register their identity, their citizenship, etc. Not in England, not in Europe, only in America. And that is the reason why American voting turnout is extremely low at times. There are elections in America where 40% people vote, 50%. Why? Because the standard case of registration of voters in America is they'll go and register either as a Democrat or as a Republican or as an independent. The onus is on the citizen, and many of them simply don't vote. Many of them simply don't even register. Forget about voting, don't even register. But that is not the case in Europe and in England, from where we followed our electoral system. And that is why you will find in Europe, for example, or even in England, voting percentages are very high. It's the government's job to register voters. The onus should be on the block level officer, not on the individual citizen. But herein lies the rub. What is the EC doing? Very funny. You cannot use Aadhaar card as the basis of your citizenship. You cannot use the voter ID if you have as the basis of the citizenship. What is considered? What do you need? It's funny. You have to do the following. Proof of residence for existing voters. Proof of residence, number one. Then they want proof of parents' citizenship. In case you are of a certain age where your parents need to prove their citizenship. So what again? They will not use Aadhaar card of the parents, but they have to use three things. They will have to give the caste certificate, or they have to produce school living certificate, or passport, or Aadhaar card of your parents. Now, imagine if the parents are dead, how many people, even among the middle class, how many of us keep the PAN card, or even, let's say, the passport of our parents? First of all, how many people in Bihar, let's take Bihar, because I come from Bihar and I've just returned from Bihar, and people are all like, suspicious. What is happening? Are they going to be disenfranchised by the EC? Everyone is talking about it. I was in Bihar for the last 3 weeks. I just returned yesterday. That's why I'm doing this program. People are puzzled. Do they have Aadhaar card? No, that will not be used. Any other, all the cards required are birth certificate, school living certificate, caste certificate. Now, how many people, matriculation certificate, school living certificate, there is a large section of population which has not passed matriculation. And remember, the year is 2003. Now, let me give you some data on the year 2003. In 2003, according to the data that I have in front of me, there was a special survey done. And that survey basically, give me a minute, that survey actually showed that less than 3% of the population of Bihar had copies of their birth certificate. Less than 8%, I think, was the figure, which they had. Less than 8% had a school living certificate. So we are talking about these certificates which are not easily available to people of all ages, all across Bihar. And I've got the figures right in front of me. 2.3%, less than 3%, less than 2.5, 2.3% people had their birth certificate. 10 to 13% of the population had passed their matriculation at that time. Caste certificate among OBCs, 25% of the people surveyed had their caste certificate. Scheduled caste, 20% had their caste certificate. But the rest, no certificates. And you have to prove, the onus is this time on the citizen. The citizen has to, just like the American system, the EC has suddenly introduced out of the blue that they have to go ahead and prove their citizenship. Now, why is the EC suddenly on June 25th, practically 3 to 4 months before the election, why are they changing the methodology? Why is suddenly the voter list they have been holding for so long elections, why are they so suspicious? If you take Bihar, altogether, there is about, as I said, the population is 13 to 14 crore, about 8 lakh voters. Let me do a simple calculation here. About 4.76 crore out of that 8 crore, or the exact figure is 8.08 crore, 4.76 crore are between the age groups of 20 to 40, or let's say 18 to 40. The younger people, they have to prove their mothers, fathers, school living certificate, birth certificate, caste certificate. They have to provide. Now, think of it. The majority of voters in Bihar fear that they might get disenfranchised. It's only those about 3.5 crore, which is 40 plus, whose names might be there in the 2003, the standard basis that the EC has taken, 2003 electoral rolls. And well, once the BLO, the block level officer, comes to your home, you have to show, you have to do an affidavit. You have to get a signature done, maybe by a gazetted officer, to prove whatever your birth certificate and all these certificates required, and then you have to attach copy of the certificates. And this is completely sounding like the gulag, In fact, Derek O'Brien has rightly pointed out, he has called it. Derek O'Brien pointed out recently that this is like, the ancestors' passes of Nazi Germany. That's why I use the word gulag. Why are people in Bihar being asked to provide their sort of birth certificate, their school living certificate, the fact that they are citizens? Majority of voters, mind you, have to sort of find out why. Why is the EC up till now? Why didn't the EC question? Why before 4 months? Is it, let's be frank, is it possible by the EC to carry this out in 1 month with 8 crore voters? Now, the other point is that a large section of the voters from Bihar, in fact, I would say 1/3 of Bihar's population has migrated. They work outside in Delhi, in Bombay, in other cities. I am a Bihari. I live in Delhi. So there are millions and millions of sort of people from Bihar, especially the working class, who, work, selling bananas or selling something small. They are all working class population. They migrate outside. So do students for studies. So once these block development officers in that 1 month end up going to their homes, who will they meet? Women and elderly. The men have gone to work. The kids have gone to work. So it's only the helpless women at home and the elderly, and they will be asked to provide the certificates that I'm pointing out: school living certificate, birth certificate, caste certificate, and of course, passport. How many Biharis actually have passport? Someone should do a survey. It'll probably come out to a few percentage points. How many have PAN cards? Only if you pay, income tax, do you have a PAN card? So the EC is gone berserk, I would argue. And the kind of questions they are asking, it sounds that the EC doesn't live in India and certainly doesn't live in Bihar. They probably live in America, and from there they are framing all these rules. This is totally what they are doing makes us suspicious. I know it's a constitutional body, but are they acting as agents of the ruling party? Are they acting on behalf of the ruling party? Because the fear is, and several political parties, especially in Bengal, have argued that. Mamata Banerjee, Derek O'Brien, several leaders from TMC, other leaders from other political parties, the India bloc wants to make this entire issue, they wants to discuss it in parliament, both inside parliament and outside parliament, that what the EC is planning to do is outrageous, is unprecedented, and they are actually not following the constitution. The fundamental right of a citizen is being challenged. Why? You have to prove your certificate. Imagine a worker who goes and earns less than 20,000 in Punjab, and his old mother and father are sitting at home, and they have to produce their birth certificate. How many Indians actually have their birth certificate? Is the EC gone crazy or what? How many hospitals in India have used to give birth certificate, and especially in 2003 and before? I mean, I didn't have a birth certificate, for God's sake. My birth certificate is my school leaving certificate. Fortunately, I went to a school. Although I was born in a hospital, by the way, but no birth certificates were given at that time. EC wants a birth certificate, a school living certificate, a caste certificate. Fortunately, I have a passport. But how many people have a passport? So why aren't the Aadhaar card, about some estimate says 80 to 88% of Indians citizens have Aadhaar card. Why isn't the Aadhaar card being accepted? Is the Aadhaar card a bogus document according to the EC? We just don't understand what has gone wrong. Now, this obviously is an attempt by the EC to disenfranchise voters who are poor, who are uneducated, who migrate outside Bihar, whose parents are left helpless, and their wives perhaps at home, and they are working outside, and the children are studying outside, or the children goes to school. So it is obviously a sinister design by the EC, and this is something which should be challenged by all citizens, by everyone, all political parties. The EC must stop, must not do this exercise, otherwise extend the Bihar election by another 6 months, which they cannot. If they wanted to sincerely do this exercise, were they sleeping in the last, let's say, 5 years? Were they sleeping in January when they were doing the revision of the registers? Were they sleeping when they were holding the so-called political sort of meetings with all political parties? They're talking about 40,000 such meetings with 18-point agenda. Were they sleeping then? Had they amnesia? Had they forgotten? Now suddenly they have come up with this. This entire exercise by the EC raises the worst suspicions of trying to do, as I pointed out, as Mamata Banerjee has pointed out, Derek O'Brien has pointed out, several other political parties have pointed out, trying to do an NRC from the back door. I will end here. We will make many more such videos on what the EC's nefarious designs are from this, what they are claiming, special intensive revision of polls, of electoral rolls 3 to 4 months before the Bihar Assembly elections. Thank you.